Okay, part two of this video, we're just going to dive a little bit deeper. Now that we know how to make a text box and a picture box, we are going to put some more elements together, use some character styles palette to format, and also talk about swatches. So jumping back over here, I'm going to go on page 2 and delete page 2 because I don't need that. I'm going to move some of my palettes over. And we're going to start with this. So what I'm going to do is start with my two images. So make a picture box again, place in my glasses PSD. Notice again, no background. And then I'm also going to bring in a pair of shoes. And the shoes are over there. A PSD as well, so I have to fit them there. And they look about the correct size. That's why the picture box is really framing the size of your content. So we have that there. Now I'm going to add our copy. So, step 1 type of thing. So I go to my text tool, and I'm going to make a text box here. And just for kicks, I'm just going to say step 1. And I can highlight this. And again, change this to be whatever font I want, whatever size I want. So I'm going to have all my headlines here be 24 points, optical kerning. I'm going to kern them out a little bit, so I'm going to do 10, positive there, and I'm going to change the color of this. So if we look at this text box, and if I'm on my where did the text box go? There it is. If I go to my text box and I select this with my black arrow, you can see here, and I'm just going to get a preview so we can actually see how everything's laid out. My box is way big enough for my text, so that's not an issue. I'm going to choose a different color. Now, if I come over here and just pick a color, look what happens. It made it the stroke around my text box. That's obviously not what I want to do. So I'm going to Command Z to undo that, same as Illustrator to undo. And I want to come over here to my swatches, and you can see here that I could either format the containing box, that's that little box there, or format the text in the box, that's the T. So I'm going to hit the T. I can see it's now my type. And now if I hit red, it will change the color of the text. So that's something to be aware of. And you can see the same thing over here. I could do the box or the text in the box. And sometimes you want to, do both. So I want to make sure that's set. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to make another text box here to fill in the space. And this is where I would copy and paste in my directions or whatnot. For this example, I'm going to use placeholder text. So that's going to auto-fill in there. I'm going to select it all with my text. And again, I'm going to format a little bit just to keep it consistent. And I'm going to keep that 12 point. I'm going to keep that optical. I'm going to give it a little bit of space. And another thing I always like to do here is go to my paragraph palette. Now in our paragraph palette, which should be over here somewhere, there it is, we can see some more. We can make this centered. We could left align it. We could justify it. We could play around with our margins a little bit. Now, right in here is where it allows hyphenation, and I hate hyphenation, so I'm going to turn that off and no hyphenate and have that kind of run together like that. So that's in your paragraph palette. Get rid of that. And now that kind of looks good as well. Now I could obviously play with the leading in my character palette. So remember, leading is the space between lines. Kerning is the space between characters. And now I have formatted my text. So if I get a preview, this kind of looks how I want it to be here. Next thing I would do, since I'm going to use this consistently. I like what my paragraph text looks like. I like what my headline text. We can use character styles to save that so we don't have to redo that every time. So character styles will be on your right side here. And if you're ever missing a palette, you go up to Window. There's all our type tools. You can see all our palettes within here. You can do output, object, all that good stuff. So in my character styles, what I'm going to do is come over with my text tool and highlight the text that I kind of want to save that style. I'm going to come down here and click Create New Style, and it saved it right there. So if I double click on this, it tells me what it just saved. You can see here it saved the font, big, medium, 24 point, tracking 10, that's kerning, the color of it, and the kerning will be optical. So it's all saved right in here, which is great. I just want to name that text red headline. That way I know what it is instead of miscellaneous. I'm going to do the same for this body copy. So I'm going to select it with my text tool, hit Create New Style, double click. You can see it's saving my leading and kerning, and I'm going to call this body copy. And you could do this multiple times. This is what's so great about InDesign. All right. So what I'm going to do is come down to my next page, page 3. This time I'm going to place in, I don't even know what I have in here. Let's see. Oh, I didn't bring my hearts either. I'm actually going to do this one next. And again, you have to. So I'm going to make a picture box. I'm going to bring in this purse. Now this is a tip, and notice the difference. When I bring this over, it has that white background. So I could resave this as a PSD with no background and then re-bring it in or update the link. Or would be the best way. I'm going to actually end up doing an effect on all these to make it kind of feel like it's merging with the paper. So if I have this selected, I'm going to go over to, look how messy my palettes are. Let me reset. I'm going to go over to Effects. So I always reset when I feel lost. And I'm going to change this from normal to multiply. These are layer blends that same as Photoshop or Illustrator. It kind of just blends those two together, which works well too. All right, so we have that over. I think I want to bring over my perfume bottle. I'm going to make another picture box and place in my perfume, which is also a TIFF, so I'm going to have to do that same effect to multiply it. Oops. Move that over. Remember, you can use your arrows on your keyboard too, which is kind of nice sometimes when you just want to tweak something and move it over slightly. All right, so I'm going to make a text box again, and this one I'm going to say step 2. You can see it does it in that default text again. Let's go to my preview mode. And what I can do now with my text tool is highlight that, and instead of going in and setting all this in my character palette and my swatches again, I can go to my character styles palette and just double click on red headline. And now that is set the exact same way as the first one. It's going to make life so much easier. So I'm going to make another text. I'm going to just put some fill, or you would copy and paste your directions in, select all, and click on body copy. And it's set the exact same font, kerning, leading, and this is going to help keep everything very consistent. All right, move that up so I feel better about it. Perfect. Now let's go over to this next page, and again, I'm doing a short version of this. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to bring in one more image. It's going to be my dress. So I'm going to file, place that in. It's outfit PSD. Big file. Again, this has that white background, so I could go back to Photoshop which I will show an example of. So let's say I don't want that white background. I'd have to go back to my original. Oh, God, I need to open up 6. That seems a bit. Open up that dress in Photoshop. There it is. It has that white background. You can see my layers. Now, if I delete that background, so you can see the checkerboard, I'm also going to have to magic wand in here a little bit to delete some more white, deselect, save my PSD, and quit. Now I go back here, and the first thing you notice is I have that exclamation mark here, which means it's been modified outside InDesign and you want to update this link. So you can update it by just double clicking on that exclamation, and there that new PSD without the background is in place. Worked great. For this one now I'm going to do the same thing. Let's move it over a little bit. I'm going to go to my text tool, make my next one, step 3, make a placeholder. I'm repeating the same steps. Here I'm going to make that, and character styles come in so handy. Now what I want here is just a little bit different. I want to have this wrap around the skirt. And this is another fun thing that InDesign does that looks great in editorial design. So a little bit more complex. So I'm on my selection tool, that black arrow. I have this text box selected, so InDesign knows that this is the one I would like to kind of play with a little bit. And I'm going to come over to, underneath my text tool, there's the pen tool. Now, this pen tool works exactly like Illustrator, except for this example, we're actually going to just add some anchor points so we have more control over this text box. So go to Add Anchor Point tool. It's the pen tool with the plus sign. And I'm going to come to this text box, which is still selected, and I'm going to add some points down the left side of this text box. Then what I can do is go to my direct selection tool, just like in Illustrator, and I can move these text boxes to reformat and wrap around. Now, another thing you can do is hit this text wrap, which is a very similar way to do it, but a nice easy way to have this wrap around nicely. That's one way to do a text wrap. And looks pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna hit my preview so I can take a look. Everything kind of looks nice there. Move that up to give it a little bit more space. Now we could have also done the same thing with a text wrap on the image. So I'll just do that for my last page to show you before we save. So here we have that same thing, and I'm going to make another text box. Placeholder text. Let's apply our body copy style to that again. Now if I add, move that over, add points to my picture box, it's kind of a sweet spot there to go right on the line, and wrap this in. Like so, and I'm just using that direct selection tool. Okay. Now, when I bring my text over, notice it's over it right there, and I have that there too. If I do my text wrap here, text wrap palette on the right-hand side, you can see here there's no text wrap. Wrap around the bounding box, wrap around the object shape. Oops. And I have my dress selected. I can hit the wraparound object, and it's actually going to mold to that object. And I always play around, so that's none, no text wrap. This is going to wrap around the bounding box, which is what I reselected. That's wrap around the object. So you can play around with which one you like. So you can either change the text box or the object that's wrapping. So two ways there. All right, so I'm going to hit save, and what you're going to go to when we do file save as, notice that I'm going to save this file in my assets, so keeping everything together in that root folder. And here again, you can see that you can save this as either an InDesign document, an InDesign template, or an IDML. So you're always going to save this as a document, a 2014, but if someone else is working on this in an older version, so say you go home and you have CS6 or whatnot, you can save it as an IDML for them to be able to open it. So it's one of those obnoxious Adobe things. I usually save both just in case. You never know if someone else is going to open this and they don't have Creative Cloud. So I'm just going to save this as step-by-step book, as an InDesign document. That's going to save it as a .indd. Now, another nice thing of how to package things in InDesign is if you go to File, Package, and this is going to save a lot of things here. So you can see it's going to save my fonts that I used. It's going to save my links. You can see if anything's missing. 0 modified, 0 missing, good. It's in 4-color process, so CMYK. I didn't use any Pantone colors, etc., etc. So I'm going to hit package. You can give it just a little bit of type about it. Where do you want it to save? I'm going to put it in my assets folder, keep everything together. Here you can see it's also going to save your linked graphics, it's going to save your fonts, it's going to save a PDF version. Here you can do the IDML for older versions. How do you want the PDF saved? And just hit package. And it's putting everything together for you. This is such a great way to keep organized, and when you send a bigger piece to press, everything's there for them. And this usually takes a little bit, and it's also saving that PDF that you're going to have to take to the print center as well. So you don't want to do this every time, but when you're done, this is where you package at the end of the whole process. And we'll just take a quick look at this. All good. And if I go into my assets folder, here you can see it created a folder for me with my fonts that I used, my instructions, all my linked files I used, the IDML for older InDesign file formats, the INDD that we created, our hard copy, and the PDF version of this. So you can see here it saved it as multiple pages. Looks great.